Hey everybody, it's Tripl-L coming in to talk about Sword Art Online War of Underworld Season 2, last episode, episode 11. Very irregular for the ending on episode 11, but it's a split season, so that's cool. Anyway, yeah, hey guys, here we are. So, what I want to say is, if you've seen the title, I wish this was Gundam, man. Like, oh my gosh, like this was a really typical episode, but then you get into the last kind of couple of minutes, and then it just turns into just one of the best things I've ever seen. I don't know. The moment I saw that, it's just like, oh my god, I need this. I need more of this. I need to understand what is going on. What is going on with Ronnie and the redhead girl? Why do they have different names? Why do they know Alice? Why are they crying? Why is Yu-Gi-Oh still showing up and one of them still crying? Now, mind you, the Synthesis Knights, they can live for a very long time. Maybe they had their names changed. But it's just a lot. There's a lot of weird things going on that I don't fully understand here. And, at first when it came to the girls, I also thought, like, maybe it's a reincarnation, maybe it's descendants. But then you have all that, like, weird stuff going on at the end. But it's like, oh my gosh, what was going on? I wish I understood more. I wish I understood more. Also, Sword Art is coming out with Progressive. I'm not sure if you know what Progressive is, but in case you don't know what Sword Art Progressive is, I'm going to tell you in the way it was explained to me. Sword Art Progressive is a retelling of the Aincrad arc, where they just spend more time on the floors that were skipped. So it's just a more fleshed out version of Sword Art's best season, that being the first season. Anyway, going back into this, man, like, just give me, this is where I realized, I really just want Gundam in everything. I want Gundam in Pokemon, I want Gundam in Digimon, and honestly, Digimon Tamers was halfway there. It was pretty much G Gundam by the end of the series. I want Gundam in everything, and of course I want Gundam in Sword Art. Like, can you imagine these people having space battles in Gundams in Sword Art and using Bankai all the time? That would be hilarious. That'd be great. I think they have a lot of ways they can go about doing this. That would be exciting if they did. But yeah, you go into that last bit, and they ended off by saying that these guys are going to be in part of, like, the inter-intelligence war. And as a fan, I'm thinking, inter-intelligence war. Are you saying this is going to be Kirito? Oh, sorry, birds. The birds are also freaked out. Are you saying this is going to be Kirito versus the Sword Art creator? Because that's what it sounds like, right? But then I was curious, because this just seems like such a weird place to end it. Also, the birds are really freaking out. 1 second. Anyway, man, like, I went out and I went to look at the wiki to see what's going on, because I know that the next arc is called Unital Ring, whatever that means. And I'm reading the description for Unital Ring, and it just starts with all the characters off somewhere in the regular seed worlds, like just playing some fantasy game, just playing with elves. And it's like, why did you downgrade to elves when you have space battles, guy? Anyway, they're off in some area, just hanging out, playing elves when the rest of Unital arc takes place. So I'm not sure if you can understand what I'm trying to say, but the intergalactic war that's going on with Star King Kirito is not in the novels. And so I talked to one of the good fans of Sword Art Online, who knows more about Sword Art Online's web novel and light novel thing than I do. And Animamus, and if you see Animamus in the comments, please give him props. And what Animamus was saying was that they're not too sure what the intelligence war is supposed to be, but it seems like Animamus's impression was that this is something that happened in the novels, but maybe it's possible that the author Reki, he changed his mind on it. Because Unital Ring is a different situation, right? Now, mind you, I haven't read Unital Ring either. It's just very interesting that you have something called the Inter-Intelligence War, and then the next arc is just everyone in the forest. Like, maybe they'll do a quick flashback if we go into those novels. But at the same time, that was disappointing. That's like the biggest climax and the biggest letdown I've ever seen. I was really hoping to be able to go into, like, just look at the summaries for the Unital Ring stuff and find out what was going on with the intergalactic war, but no, we can't get that. Animamus also gave us a little bit of a morsel, being that Star King Kirito wants to transform the ocean turtle into its own country in the real world, and then utilize the AI piloted weapons for their own self-defense. So that's just an interesting little detail that was skipped in the anime. But anyway, that was Sword Art's ending, and it's just, man, I wish there was more. I even looked at the light novel, like, I managed to find one of the light novel sheets for the final volume, so this volume here, and that little paragraph where they told you stuff at the end of the episode is also seems to be maintained in the light novel. So this is like, for better or for worse, this is a one-to-one ending, which is just even more mind-boggling. Like, holy crap, man. I hope they go back and they eventually... Man, I would love to know what happened in 200 years. I would love to know what happens in the intelligence wars. Like, this is a lot, but now we're going into progressive, so I don't know. Anyway, that was a lot. But for this episode itself, like I didn't know it was a finale episode. As a finale episode, like honestly, you can tell it's the end of a light novel. They're wrapping things up. One of the funniest things that I found from this episode is that the government never bothered to tell Kirito's parents that he wasn't missing. It's just funny that that went all the way through. But yeah, in terms of like the highlights for me in this episode, I felt it really funny when Alice shows up in a box. That was I like the fake out. That was really good. I like that Alice has weird Wi-Fi powers because why not? I love that Alice got upset when Kirito mentioned bringing Asuna, which is just honestly the funniest thing. Like Kirito really has the biggest balls in the world to be willing to just flat out go say that. But one thing that if we're talking about like as we're ending this off and if we're talking about things that are worth talking about, I ultimately it's a very sad situation with Kirito because this one is an issue of responsibility here. I really feel bad for Alice in all of this because Alice is legitimately a fish out of water, and it's Kirito who's partly responsible for bringing her out there, especially when Kirito is one of her few emotional supports in the real world. It's just unfortunate how unaware he is of the stress that Alice is going through. And this was something that occurred in the previous episode as well. But Kirito comes out of this like being a big jerk. And the only reason I'm saying that is just because like this is just an issue of a support system. Like my best like comparison here would be this is akin to someone bringing out a refugee from the third world to the first world. They are essentially their sponsor, and then they don't do the responsibilities of being a sponsor. That means checking in on them, making sure they're adapting to society. I know that this is like another company has control of this, and also Kirito is a child, so we really can't expect that much of him. But that's a really unfortunate thing. I'm sad that we can't expect more of Kirito. That's the unfortunate thing. I'm sad that he is legitimately a child, and in terms of like being a hero, he doesn't really step into being a hero in the real world. And it's actually really interesting because you have that portion there with the father. Mind you, I don't this isn't meant to criticize Kirito. This is like actually meant just to talk about the difficulties that come out specifically when you have a situation where someone is a hero in another world. They live a mundane life. They have a serious relationship, and then they have someone who is dependent on them and also wants romantic interactions with them. It's a real mess of different factors coming in here. But then you have that conversation with the father, and the father's talking about, yeah, you got to get a job, and he talks about other parts of the values, which honestly, I think it's really interesting. I do think it's good that there was ultimately a compromise that would make Alice happy as well at the end there. It's just unfortunate that for all the agency that Kirito has in the virtual world, where he's legitimately living with the fear of death, just like any other world. He was legitimately about to die. Kirito has come back from death, which is worth pointing out there. It's just very interesting when you think about it, the dichotomy that occurs when you have a Kirito with so much agency in the virtual world and the Kirito that has to play by the rules in the real world. Now, mind you, again, this isn't a bad thing. Like this is a balance. This is an issue of balance, and really it's really different to see this kind of issue talked about or this kind of issue drawn out in anime. Um, it's very interesting how there is still Kazuto who is very much grounded when it comes to the other world, and it is also again like the issue of Kirito being a child, him being unable to properly take care of Alice before the moment that Alice ships herself to him. That makes sense for incompetent child Kazuto. That entirely makes sense. You wouldn't expect Kazuto to have that kind of emotional intelligence when he's only 16. So again, I think, it's unfortunate to see it, but this is well within reason, such that this constitutes character flaw as opposed to bad writing. It is just infuriating, and not infuriating. It's annoying to see it because it sucks for everyone involved. But again, it makes sense. That's ultimately where I end up with it. Like honestly, you give if people gave SAO more time to develop the rhetoric that it had in the novel, like SAO has some really good points to make. And again, SAO's fundamental thesis when it comes to how they interact with the other world is fundamentally different than the majority of other isekais. And because it's one of the few ones that actually does, where its plot is more about justifying that fake experiences or fake worlds are as valuable as the real world. That's very different from the isekai of these other worlds aren't just games, they're real. It's a fundamental difference, and because SAO has that particular nature, you go into the whole area of AI rights. Because SAO has the particular nature of making fake things as valuable as the real thing, that's where you have SAO specific interesting development, that being where we've gone with the top or the bottom up AIs and all that kind of stuff. Any other things for this episode? The episode, again, it was a wrap up episode. It was wrapping up Kirito and Alice's relationship. And you had that little moment where she's just seeing Kirito's world, which again, it's just tell you that the girl really likes him, and the guy's not gonna budge. Guy's not gonna budge. It's really unfortunate. But props to Kirito for being so loyal. But like at the same time, it sucks. It really sucks. Poor girl. Like she's watched so many of her support systems die because of her. And Kirito's just like, you're at my house. It's unfortunate. In terms of the wrap up for those little plots, it was good. I am very interested in who gave Alice the way into the underworld, but what can we really say? Anyway, if anyone has more information about the interintelligence war, please let me know down below. Maybe there's some little bit in Unital Ring that I don't know about. Maybe there's a little bit of an explanation there. I would love to know. But yeah, and I know that there's something Moon Cradle. Moon Cradle is a side story that takes place during the 200 years, so I know that's not going to be relevant. But yeah, anyway, everyone, thank you so much for watching. I don't really have much else to say because like there's not really that many parts to the episode because so much of the episode is spent on Kirito and Alice. Yeah, and then at the end you just have them all fighting. Not much else I can add there, but it was still a really fun run for Sword Art this season. I always get invested. For as dumb as some parts are, it's still an entertaining story. It left me wanting to see Gundam. That's where I end off. Heck, even Gundam Build Fighters. If they want to do a Gundam Build Fighters thing, I'd be totally into that too. Just like give me Bonkai in it, and I'll be pretty happy. And just for those that don't know, when I say Bonkai, I mean release the recollection or whatever, or release memory, whatever it's called. It's essentially Bonkai. But yeah, guys, let me know what you thought down below. And until next time, I hope you have an absolutely great day.